Hello everyone. So we have already completed with the previous presentation all the protochordates, that is cephalochordata and urochordata. We have also dealt with the type species under each of the subphylum, and we saw the various examples under each classes of the subphylum urochordata. We also went through the affinities of each subphylum with the what you call other subphylum and lower groups as well as the higher groups. Okay, now with this presentation we are going to start with the subphylum vertebrata. Okay, in this presentation we will be looking into the salient features of subphylum vertebrata, its classification down to classes, and we will also see the characters of division agnatha. Okay, so this is it. We can see this is the evolutionary pathway, and we can see the chordates. It is the a chordate ancestor which possessed notochord during any of its life stages, and from such an ancestor gave rise to urochordates as well as another stock, and from here the an ancestor with notochord bearing these characters like notochord extending from head to tail and notochord extending from head to tail. Such an ancestor, it gave rise to cephalochordata, while a few of the descendants from such an ancestor, it gave rise to craniata. Craniata is one where the organism do possess a tripartite brain protected within a skull. Okay, tripartite brain means brain is divided into three partitions or three parts. Okay, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, and such a brain is completely covered within a skull. Such a group is referred as a craniata. Okay, so euchordata, an ancestor, it gave rise to cephalochordata, and during the evolutionary scale, what happened is some of the descendants it developed the skull and tripartite brain, and such descendants it gave rise to the hagfishes. Okay, actually the whole thing comes under vertebrates. Okay, so then this vertebrates came up, and obviously these are just a few examples under vertebrata. I hope this is clear. Okay, so this is the evolutionary pathway where you can see how the vertebrates have evolved. Okay, now the salient features of vertebrata. Actually, vertebrates belong to the subphylum vertebrata, right? And that is how the name has come, vertebrata. The members have been called as vertebrates, that you already know. And this name is derived from the due to the presence of serially arranged vertebrae, okay, which comprise a major part of their axial skeleton, right? The endoskeleton, we'll be seeing it in detail later in the coming classes. Endoskeleton, it is made up of either bones or cartilage, right? And in vertebrates we can see that the endoskeleton can be divided into two parts: axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. Okay, it is just 1 minute, sorry. Yes, it is axial and appendicular. Okay, so axial skeleton, it is actually the axis which is composed of the skull, the spine, the vertebral column, the rib cage, the sternum, etc. Okay, the while the limbs and the girdles, it forms the appendicular skeleton. Okay, it is just extensions of the axial skeleton, isn't it? So vertebrae, it is actually making the major part of the axial endoskeleton of all the vertebrates. Okay, another feature that all the vertebrates do possess, it is the presence of cranium. Okay, it is actually the cranium or the skull which actually protects the brain as well as the important sense organs, and that is why it is included under the so-called group craniata. Fine. Now, so these are the two important features of the subphylum vertebrata. We can see that most important one is the presence of vertebrae, and that is why they get their name vertebrata. right? Second one is the presence of a skull, or it is otherwise known as cranium, and that is why they have been grouped under the group Craniata. Okay, and third, fourth, and fifth, the most important one, the fundamental features of all the chordates, like presence of notochord, the pharyngeal gill slits, dorsal hollow nerve cord. So all these five are the important characters which are found in all the vertebrates. Fine. Now, then we can see the salient features here. Now, vertebrates, it is present in all kinds of like ecosystems. Like there are aquatic organisms, there are terrestrial organisms as well. Okay. Now, when we speak about the important features, we have already seen that notochord, it is present in the vertebrates, isn't it? But notochord is restricted as notochord in the embryonic stage only. But when it comes to adults, it is that is post embryonic stage, we can see that notochord is getting replaced by vertebral column. Okay. Notochord and another feature is notochord stops short beneath the forebrain, and it is actually getting replaced by vertebral column, which is made up of what we call bones or cartilage, right? And another feature is high degree of cephalization. Actually, the dorsal nerve cord, the anterior end of the dorsal nerve cord, it enlarges into complex brain, and this is protected by the skull. As seen, the uh, brain is tripartite, that is, it is made up of three parts, right? Forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, and it is the hindbrain which continues into the spinal cord. Okay, so the brain, the anterior part of the dorsal nerve cord, it enlarges to form the brain, while the rest of the portion of the nerve cord, it continues as the spinal cord, right? The brain, it is tripartite, and it is protected within a skull, while the spinal cord, it extends till the tip of the tail, and it is protected within the vertebrae. The brain gives off 10 to 12 pairs of cranial nerves in the head region, and the spinal nerves, it varies from species to, from group to group. Okay, well, there usually it is 10 to 12 cranial nerves arising from the brain. Okay, then regarding the gill slits, pharyngeal gill slits, the pharyngeal gill slits, usually it is restricted to 7 pairs in most cases, except in lower vertebrates. We can see that there are gill slits, pharyngeal gill slits are present, and they are not more than 7 pairs. Okay, and visceral arches or branchial arches are present. Then endoskeleton, it is well developed, as we have already seen. It is composed of skull, vertebral column, then pectoral and pelvic girdles, and then the forelimb and hind limb bones. Okay, as such, the skeletal system is completely is divided into axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Then regarding metamerism, the body is bilaterally symmetrical, and they are metamerically segmented. Okay, then the circulatory system, the blood vascular system, it is a closed type. It is composed of heart, blood vessels, and blood. The heart is ventral in position. It is muscular, chambered. It is myogenic, and the chambered heart, it could be composed of 2, 3, or 4 chambers. Then regarding the blood vessels, they are tubular. It could be of different types based upon in which direction the blood is being taken. With respect to blood, it is composed of plasma and what you call blood corpuscles, and usually the respiratory pigment, it is confined within the corpuscles, okay, or blood cells. Is it clear? Okay, so blood is composed of plasma and blood cells, and the respiratory pigment, it is present inside the blood cells. Now regarding the endocrine system of the ductless glands, isn't it? It is scattered throughout the body, and it is involved in regulating various body functions and controls growth and reproduction. Then liver, it is massive, but unlike the lower groups, it is not tubular. Okay. Then kidneys, it is mesodermal origin. It could be mesonephric or metanephric type of kidneys. Usually there are paired kidneys which take up the function of respiration, and the rest of the parts almost the same. Schizocelic coelom, development of neural crest during embryonic development, and as we have seen, what is tripartite brain. Okay, so these are the few salient features of subphylum Vertebrata. Okay, this is a classification. You can see the vertebrata subphylum, it is divided into two, what you call, divisions, the Agnatha and Gnathostomata. And the Agnatha, it includes Cyclostomata, and just yeah. Agnatha, it includes Cyclostomata, which is the only living group, and the extinct group, it is Ostracodermy. The Gnathostomata, the Agnatha and Gnathostomata, the division has been made based on whether the organisms possess jaw or not. Okay, those without jaws, that is vertebrates without jaws, it has been included under Agnatha. Okay, and these are considered to be the primitive group, while Gnathostomata, it is considered to be the what you call advanced group, and it is being divided further into two superclasses. Okay, superclass Pisces and superclass Tetrapoda, based upon what kind of structures are used for locomotion. Superclass Pisces use fins for locomotion, while Tetrapoda, the name itself says four-legged, isn't it? So they bear limbs for locomotion, and these four legs or the four limbs, it may be like reduced, it may be completely well developed, so it differs from group to group. Okay, superclass Pisces includes two classes, or further it is classified into two classes, class chondric thighs and class ostic thighs, based upon what is the endoskeleton made up of. So all those fishes, which do have cartilaginous endoskeleton, has been grouped under class chondric thighs, while the class ostic thighs includes fishes with bony endoskeleton. Okay, so these are then Tetrapoda superclass. It is further divided into the four classes as along the evolutionary pace. It is amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammalia. Okay, so we can see there are almost like different classes, of which seven are living. All those listed over here, the seven. Apart from that, two more are there which are already completely extinct. One is Ostracodermy. And the second is Placodermy. Right. So Ostracodermy and Placodermy, it comes under the Agnathan group, and it is actually those two are extinct. So vertebrata, it includes actually almost 9 classes. Okay, and the first two class, Ostracodermy and Cyclostomata, they lack jaws, and hence they are grouped under Agnatha, while the remaining classes, it is grouped under Gnathostomata. Fine. And further we saw Gnathostomata is divided into two superclasses, superclass Pisces, which includes all the fishes, while tetrapods include all the four-legged vertebrates. Okay, most of them are terrestrial. Then the fishes, they are completely aquatic in nature. Okay, so these are the major classifications under subphylum vertebrata. Okay. Okay, so this is division Agnatha, the first one under vertebrata. As the name indicates, it is without jaws. So those vertebrates without jaws have been included under division Agnatha. Okay, they are primitive groups, jawless, and they are fish-like aquatic vertebrates, and they do possess distinct skull or the cranium, and the axial support is by notochord. So here you the condition, this slightly more primitive. Locomotion is by way of fins, but it needn't be always present, and when present, it is not supported by fin rays. So when we move into fishes, we can see that the fins are supported by fin rays, but it is absent. Fin rays are absent in the case of Agnatha. Okay, they are grouped into two classes, Ostracodermy and Cyclostomata. Ostracodermy includes all the extinct forms, while the living forms are included under Cyclostomata. Okay, Ostracodermy, they two examples, Cephalaspis and Pteraspis. Cyclostomata, Petromyzon and Myxin. So you will be learning only the Cyclostomata example, Petromyzon. and for your practical purpose also you will be observing the specimen and writing the characters. Okay, so Agnatha, they are all bottom dwellers in the oceans, and they usually, since we have already seen that many of them doesn't possess any fins for locomotion, so they usually wriggle along the seafloor or the stream beds. Okay, they don't have any appendages, and if present, it is devoid of the fin rays. It's not supported by fin rays. Then reproduction is for external development, and fertilization is also external. They are oviparous. Then regarding digestion, they don't have any identifiable stomach. Their metabolism is very slow, and since it is very slow metabolism, they don't eat much. They are fluid feeders, and they possess pouch-like structures in between pharynx and the exterior surface, almost similar to what we have like atrium. Okay, and lining the walls of these pouches bear gills. It is just like pharyngeal wall, but it is surrounded, which is surrounded by atrium. It is somewhat like that. Okay, so pouches between pharynx and exterior, and these pharynx, it is actually bearing gills. Okay, then circulatory system, they do have chambered heart for blood circulation, and they have three types of blood vessels, like arteries, veins, and capillaries, and they have a single circulatory system. Okay, you have already studied what is double circulation, isn't it? Then osmoregulation, they are osmoconformers. Okay, most of them are osmoconformers, and we can see some are osmoregulators. So what is osmoconformers? They change their ionic concentration, or the internal water and salt concentration, to conform to the surroundings. Okay, that is, when there is change, when there is increase in salt concentration outside the body, automatically inside the body they make changes, modify the internal environment so that it becomes isotonic to the external environment. So that is known as osmoconformers. Okay, so most of them are osmoconformers, agnathans. Okay, so this is what we are discussing on the different groups, right? Yes, so you can see the all those which ends in ASPIS, isn't it? Trypanospis, Hemicyclaspis, Pteraspis, all those are the lower, very primitive agnathans. Okay, then coming towards the Myxin and Petromyzin, those are the cyclostomata. This is considered to be a little more advanced ones, and you can see these ones, they have just one minute. Okay. A slightly more, you can see, isn't it, armored body covering, isn't it? It is somewhat like an armor. Here also you can see an armor, but here it is confined to the head region, but it is almost like an armor. They have fish-like body, isn't it? And so these are primitive forms. Usually they restricted themselves into the oceans, right? The ostracodermy. It comes under ostracodermy. They are fish-like. They are flattened dorsoventrally, and you can see they don't have jaws or pectoral or pelvic fins, but they do have median fins. You can see they have the median fins, isn't it? The dorsal fin and this one, the what you call caudal fin, and they have a very bony and heavy armor around the body. Usually the head is encased in a solid shield, which is made up of bony dermal plates. Okay, so you don't need to learn about the ostracoderms, just for your information. I just pass this. So here you can see Myxin and Petromyzin, they have evolved maybe like 10,000 or so years before, but cyclostomes, they have been during the Devonian period. Okay, so in the next class we'll be dealing with the species which you are supposed to learn in detail under Agnatha, that is the Petromyzin. Okay, and we'll be studying the Petromyzin as a type species, and then we will also see the various other examples which you are supposed to study under Agnatha. Okay, thank you.